Hey Jordan, I've been following your channel for ages, and today I finally mustered up the courage to share my own experience with you. My name is Sophia. I'm originally from Mexico, but I reside in Canada now, and what I'm about to recount still haunts me deeply, even after all this time. I have an older sister named Mia. She was 22 back then, and I was 16. She was spending her gap year with our aunt down in Mexico, and I couldn't join her because I had to stay for high school. So, we made it a habit to video call every single day to keep our bond strong. But one evening, a Friday night to be exact, everything took a terrifying turn. I was lounging on my bed, just casually chatting with her via video call, when all of a sudden she froze in place. Her eyes grew enormous, fixed on something behind her device that remained invisible to me. I questioned her, "What's going on?" She murmured that over the last several days, she had noticed a guy clutching an umbrella, simply standing motionless outside her window. But then she uttered something that sent a chill down my spine. She said, "He casts a shadow, so it can't possibly be a spirit." I chuckled at her fear, genuinely believing she was exaggerating things. Then she abruptly ended the call. Moments later, she forwarded me a short video clip. I viewed it and convinced myself it was insignificant. I attempted to dismiss it entirely, but in hindsight, I really shouldn't have. The following day, I headed out with my buddies, Lucas, Olivia, and Tyler. We were the kind of teenagers who thrived on goofing off and stirring up minor mischief. That evening, we sneaked to the local park around 11:30 p.m., puffing on vapes and just chilling until Olivia produced a Ouija board from her bag. I felt a rush of excitement. I had always been intrigued by the supernatural, but I had no idea this particular night would shatter that fascination permanently. I initiated another video call with my sister and displayed the board to her. Her expression immediately drained of color. She began yelling at me, insisting that I shouldn't mess with it under any circumstances. I disregarded her warnings completely. I disconnected the call. She persisted in ringing me, but I refused to pick up. Olivia initiated the session. She placed her fingertips on the planchette, that little heart-shaped pointer you slide across the board, and inquired, "Is there anyone present?" Nothing occurred at all. So, in my foolishness, I seized the planchette myself and posed. "Is the man my sister spotted in Mexico a ghost or a living person?" The instant those words left my lips, the Ouija board was wrenched from my grasp. It didn't merely slip or tumble, it was violently jerked away and hurled to the dirt. We all let out piercing screams and bolted back to our homes. My mom scolded me harshly for staying out so late, but my mind was in complete disarray. The next day, the situation escalated dramatically. Lights began flickering off unexpectedly while I was in the shower. I heard eerie voices whispering my name when the house was empty. I awoke with mysterious bruises covering my knees that I couldn't account for. That's when I confessed everything to my mom, spilling every single detail without holding back. She didn't probe with any questions whatsoever. She simply contacted a priest right away. He arrived at our home, performed prayers in every corner, sanctified the entire property, blessed me personally, and following that ritual, all the disturbances ceased abruptly. And to this very day, I still wear a rosary around my neck, that beaded cross necklace many Christians rely on for spiritual safeguarding. I never remove it, not after enduring what I did. Sophia paused for a moment, reflecting on how that experience had reshaped her entire worldview. She remembered the way the air felt heavier that Friday night, the pixels on the screen freezing as Mia's face contorted in terror. The umbrella man, as she had come to think of him, wasn't just a figment of imagination. The shadow he cast made him all too real, blending the lines between the living world and something far more sinister. In her mind, she replayed the video Mia sent, grainy footage showing a shadowy figure under the dim streetlight, umbrella tilted just so, unmoving like a statue carved from darkness itself. Why hadn't she taken it seriously? The laughter that escaped her lips back then now echoed as a regretful mistake, a dismissal that invited chaos into her life. The park outing with Lucas, Olivia, and Tyler had started innocently enough. They were her closest friends, the ones who shared secrets and late-night adventures. Lucas with his easygoing smile, Olivia's adventurous spirit that always pushed boundaries, and Tyler's quiet humor that lightened any mood. Vaping under the stars, the cool night air wrapping around them like a blanket, it felt rebellious yet safe. But when Olivia unveiled the Ouija board, its worn letters and mysterious symbols gleaming under the moonlight, Sophia's curiosity overrode any caution. She had read about such things online, watched videos on channels like Jordan's, but experiencing it firsthand was supposed to be thrilling, not terrifying. Showing it to Mia via video call was a spur-of-the-moment decision, one that backfired instantly. Mia's pale face, her urgent pleas echoing through the speaker. "Don't touch it, Sophia! You have no idea what you're inviting!" Should have been enough to stop her. But teenage stubbornness won out. Hanging up felt like asserting independence, silencing the calls that followed like ignoring a distant storm warning. As Olivia began, the planchette sat still, mocking their attempts. Sophia's grab for it was impulsive, her question about the umbrella man spilling out before she could think twice. The force that yanked the board away was unnatural, a pull from invisible hands that sent it flying several feet, landing with a thud that reverberated through the group. Their screams pierced the night as they scattered, hearts pounding, feet slamming against the pavement. Sophia burst through her front door, breathless, only to face her mom's wrath. "Where have you been? It's way past curfew!" But explanations were futile. Her mind raced with images of the board's flight, the unseen energy that had intervened. Sleep evaded her that night, replaced by a gnawing dread. The escalations the next day were relentless. In the shower, steam filling the bathroom, the lights blinked out, plunging her into darkness broken only by the water's rush. She fumbled for the switch, heart racing, but it flipped back on its own moments later. Alone in the house, voices murmured her name, soft, insistent, coming from empty rooms. "Sophia! Sophia!" Chills ran down her spine, hairs standing on end. Waking to bruises, purple marks blooming on her knees like fingerprints from the beyond, pushed her over the edge. Confessing to her mom was a flood of words, details tumbling out, the video call, the umbrella man, the Ouija session, the aftermath. Her mom's response was immediate. No skepticism, just action. The priest, a kind man with a calm demeanor, arrived with holy water and incense. He moved methodically through the house, reciting prayers in Latin, his voice steady and reassuring. Blessings over doorways, windows, each room purified. He placed his hands on Sophia's head, invoking protection, and as he finished, a weight lifted from the air. The disturbances vanished, leaving only memories. Now, years later, the rosary remains a constant companion, its beads a tactile reminder of vulnerability and faith. Sophia touches it often, especially on quiet nights, grateful for the peace but forever marked by the events. Sharing with Jordan felt cathartic, a way to warn others some doors, once opened, are hard to close. The umbrella man's shadow lingers in her dreams, a symbol of the thin veil between worlds. She wonders about Mia's safety, the gap year that bridged distances but invited horrors. Life moved on, school, friends, relocations, but the trauma etched itself deep, a story she carries like a scar. Expanding on the friends' dynamics, Lucas had always been the protector, checking on everyone after the park incident via texts. "You okay, Soph? That was insane." Olivia, ever the thrill seeker, later admitted her own fears, the board now hidden away in her closet. Tyler joked about it to cope, but his eyes betrayed unease. The group grew closer through the shared scare, vowing never to tempt fate again. Her mom's unwavering belief surprised Sophia. Perhaps she had her own untold stories. The priest's visit included advice. "Faith is your shield, wear it proudly." The rosary, gifted that day, became her talisman. In Canada now, far from those events, Sophia still glances at shadows, listens for whispers, but finds solace in the cross's weight against her skin. Reflecting on 2019, the year it all unfolded, she realizes how innocence shattered. The video from Mia, replayed in her mind, the figure's stillness, umbrella like a prop in a nightmare. Dismissing it was her first error. The Ouija amplified it. Bruises faded, but psychological marks endure. Sharing this, she hopes others heed warnings, respect the unknown. Jordan's videos prepared her somewhat, but reality hits harder. To anyone reading, believe when fear whispers. It might save you. Hey, Jordan. This one still creeps me out every time I think about it. My name is Ethan. Back in 2019, I was working in Seoul, South Korea. I'd moved to a quiet residential area in Mapo-gu because it was peaceful and only a quick 20-minute subway ride into the heart of the city. The place I rented was an older two-story house, nothing fancy, but it felt cozy enough at first. The real issue was the house right next door. It had this faded red door that looked like it hadn't been painted in decades, completely rusted around the edges, and the front yard was totally overgrown with weeds that came up to my knees. Every morning when I left for work, I'd glance over and wonder how anyone could even walk through that mess to get inside. I knew the house wasn't abandoned because I'd asked my landlord about it the day I moved in. She told me a man lived there, but he only stayed over once a week, maybe once a month at most. The rest of the time, the place sat empty, and she honestly had no idea why he kept it that way. It made me uneasy, but I figured it was none of my business and tried to forget about it. Then one evening, after a long, exhausting day at the office, I was walking home and glanced toward the neighbor's house like I always did. That's when I saw it. A dark silhouette standing perfectly still in one of the upstairs windows, just staring straight at me. I froze for a second, heart pounding, but then I forced myself to look away, pretended I hadn't noticed anything, and hurried inside my own door. Less than a minute later, there was a knock. I called out in Korean, asking who it was, and a man's voice answered that he was my neighbor. My stomach dropped. I really didn't want to open the door. I stood there in complete silence for a good 5 minutes, trying to decide what to do. The quiet stretched on, and eventually, I convinced myself he'd given up and left. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. The next morning, as I stepped out to head to work, my blood ran cold. Scrawled on the wall right next to my front door in bright red, what looked like lipstick, was my name, Ethan. I had no clue how he could possibly know it. The only person who could have told him was my landlord, so I called her right away and lost my temper, demanding answers. She sounded genuinely confused and swore she'd never spoken a word to the guy next door. I wanted to believe she was lying, but there wasn't much I could do about it, so I dropped it and went to work, trying to shake off the unease. A few days passed, and I noticed the weeds next door had all been cut neat and short, like someone had finally taken care of the yard. Then, one afternoon, I actually ran into the neighbor outside. He locked eyes with me and started yelling something in Korean, his tone sharp and furious. My Korean wasn't great back then, so I couldn't make out what he was saying. I just gave an awkward smile and a little wave, hoping to diffuse whatever was going on. But his face, I'll never forget it. Pure rage, like I'd done something unforgivable. I had no idea what I could have possibly done to set him off. Sweat poured down my back as I backed away and rushed inside. It was a weekend a little while later. I usually slept in until noon on my days off, so I was dead asleep when a deafening noise jolted me awake. At first, I couldn't place it, but then I realized it was the roar of a chainsaw right outside my front door. My heart started hammering. Then came heavy knocks. Instinct told me it was him. He was standing there revving the chainsaw over and over, the sound vibrating through the walls. I didn't dare open the door. I yelled that I was calling the police, but the noise was so loud he probably couldn't even hear me. I was shaking, terrified of what he might do if I made a wrong move. He stayed out there for what felt like forever before finally walking away. Not long after, the cops showed up. They talked to him, and he claimed he'd just come over to chat and had been using the chainsaw to trim a tree in his yard. They bought it, apparently, because nothing else happened that day. But that was the last straw for me. I contacted my landlord immediately and told her I was moving out as soon as possible. I'll never forget the final day when the moving truck was parked out front and I was hauling boxes. I looked up at his house one last time and saw him standing in the same upstairs window. He was staring right at me with a calm, creepy smile on his face. In his hands, he held something small and limp like a rabbit, blood dripping fresh onto the windowsill. I felt sick. I threw the rest of my stuff in the truck as fast as I could and got out of there. I never went back. To this day, I have no idea who that man really was or what he wanted from me. All I know is he wasn't just odd or eccentric. He was dangerous, truly dangerous. Ethan took a deep breath as he finished recounting the memory, still feeling that familiar knot in his stomach. Seoul had been an adventure at first, new job, new culture, the excitement of living abroad. But that house in Mapo-gu turned it into a nightmare he couldn't escape fast enough. The red door haunted his thoughts for months afterward, a symbol of something unhinged lurking behind ordinary walls. He remembered the silhouette vividly, tall, motionless, features obscured by the dim light inside. It wasn't a quick glance. The figure held the pose as if waiting for Ethan to acknowledge it. Pretending not to see had felt like the safest option, but clearly it hadn't worked. The knock that followed was deliberate, patient, like the man knew Ethan was home and alone. Standing frozen inside his entryway, listening for footsteps that never came, Ethan had replayed every possible scenario. What if he opened the door? What if he didn't? The silence eventually convinced him the danger had passed, but finding his name scrawled in red the next morning shattered that illusion. The letters were uneven, hurried, the lipstick smeared at the edges. It felt personal, invasive, like a violation of the small bubble of safety he'd built in a foreign country. Calling the landlord had been fueled by pure frustration. Her denial sounded sincere over the phone, her voice rising in surprise. But doubt lingered. Who else could it have been? Ethan had only been there a short time. He hadn't told many people his exact address. The sudden mowing of the weeds added another layer of unease. It was as if the man was preparing, cleaning up his space for reasons Ethan didn't want to imagine. Then the confrontation, outside words spat with venom. Ethan couldn't translate, but the body language was universal. Fury. The man's eyes bored into him, fists clenched, face flushed. Ethan's polite wave felt ridiculous in retrospect, a weak attempt to placate someone clearly beyond reasoning. The chainsaw incident was the peak of terror. Waking to that mechanical growl, so close it rattled the windows, Ethan had pressed himself against the bedroom wall, phone in hand but too paralyzed to dial right away. Each rev of the engine felt like a threat, a promise of violence barely contained by a thin wooden door. When the police arrived, their casual acceptance of the neighbor's excuse only heightened Ethan's isolation. No one else seemed to sense the menace. Moving day brought a twisted farewell. The smile on the man's face as he held the bloodied animal wasn't triumphant or mocking. It was satisfied, almost affectionate, as if he'd won some private game. The rabbit, or whatever it was, dangled limply, crimson drops trailing down the glass. Ethan didn't linger to confirm. He just drove away, vowing never to return to that street. Years later, living safely back in the States, Ethan still checks windows at night, still hesitates when neighbors approach too suddenly. The experience taught him that danger doesn't always announce itself with screams or obvious signs. Sometimes it's a quiet silhouette, a name in lipstick, a chainsaw at the door. Sharing it with Jordan felt like releasing a burden he'd carried alone for too long. A warning to anyone listening: trust your instincts when something feels wrong, because ignoring them can cost more than you ever expect. Hey Jordan, this story isn't mine, it's my buddy Alex's, but every time he tells it, it still sends chills down my spine. Alex and I were juniors at this private college in New England that's absolutely obsessed with the color maroon. Everything on campus is maroon. The uniforms, the flags, the hoodies in the campus store, even the stadium seats. The school started out as an all-girls academy back in the day, and that old history comes with a ton of ghost stories. People say weird stuff happens once the sun goes down after 6. Former students swear they've heard a dog barking in the middle of the night with no dog around, and some even claim they've seen the woman who founded the school wandering the hallways in her old-fashioned dress. One afternoon, we were stuck on campus late working on a video project for class. The building we were in, the old arts center, has always had the creepiest reputation, but I never really bought into the rumors. Seeing is believing, right? While we were editing footage, Alex said he needed to hit the bathroom to fix his hair and asked me to walk with him. I didn't feel like it. The The restrooms are one floor down in this dim hallway, but I went anyway because I wanted to refill my water bottle at the fountain near the faculty lounge. I filled up and waited outside the men's room, scrolling on my phone and wondering what was taking him so long. Eventually, I walked closer to the entrance, and suddenly, Alex came flying out, grabbing my arm hard enough to hurt. His face was ghost white, eyes wide. We bolted back upstairs without saying a word at first. As soon as we got to our workspace, I demanded, "Dude, what happened?" He could barely get the words out at first. Then he told me, "I was standing at the sink, fixing my hair in the mirror. You know how you can see the stalls reflected behind you? There's that one stall at the end that's supposed to be faculty only, always locked. I noticed movement in the reflection, a woman's head slowly peeking over the top of the door. Her hair was pulled back in this tight, old-fashioned bun. I could see her feet in these worn slippers at the bottom, and she had on a long, dark dress that went all the way to the floor. I didn't know whether to freak out or brush it off as his imagination, but the look on Alex's face was dead serious. No way he was making it up. I tried to lighten the mood and joked, "Bro, you probably just saw the founder herself checking in on the school." But it didn't land as a joke. It felt way too real in the moment. We ended up telling a few of our classmates about it later that week. Some were totally into it and wanted every detail. Others just rolled their eyes and called it typical campus hype. But nobody could explain away how shaken Alex looked. No one could fake that kind of fear. A couple days after that, there was an activities fair on the 3rd floor of the main administration building. Alex and I were walking past this long wall covered in old portraits of past presidents and founders. Alex suddenly stopped dead in his tracks and pointed at one of the frames. My stomach dropped when I saw it. Hanging there was an oil painting of a woman in a long, dark dress, hair in a perfect bun, wearing the exact same style of slippers. Everything matched what Alex had described down to the tiniest detail. Below the portrait was a plaque with her name and the year she founded the school, over 100 years ago. That moment made everything hit different. Seeing her face staring back from the wall turned a creepy bathroom encounter into something undeniable. Whether it was actually a ghost, some kind of leftover energy, or just a trick of the light and an overactive imagination, I'll never know for sure. But Alex's expression when he recognized that painting is burned into my memory forever. He went pale all over again, like he was seeing her peek over that stall door one more time. Alex still avoids that building whenever he can, especially after dark. He transferred off-campus housing the next semester just to put some distance between him and the art center. I tease him about it sometimes, but honestly, I don't blame him. That school has so many stories layered on top of each other, generations of students adding their own encounters to the legend. The maroon colors that used to feel like school pride now carry this faint undercurrent of something watching, something old that never fully left. He says the worst part wasn't even the initial sighting. It was realizing later that the woman in the mirror wasn't looking at his reflection. In the story he told me months afterward, he admitted that when he first noticed her peeking, her eyes weren't on him at all. They were fixed on something behind him, like she was watching someone else in the empty bathroom. That detail still keeps him up some nights. Our group of friends split on whether it was real. Half of us became total believers in campus ghosts. The other half still call it coincidence and old pipes creaking. But every time we pass that portrait wall now, we all slow down just a little, glancing up at her painted eyes like we're waiting for her head to tilt or her gaze to shift. Alex graduated last year and moved across the country, but he still texts me around Halloween with the same message. "Tell the founder I said hi if you see her." I laugh it off, but I never go into that building alone after 6 anymore. Some stories you can shrug off. Others stick with you, especially when there's a painting on the wall proving the person you saw has been dead for over a century.
It was a crisp autumn Saturday evening in late October 2025, and my parents had headed out to visit my grandparents across town. At 16, I was thrilled to have the house to myself, no lectures about screen time or chores. I'd been dying to binge watch the Conjuring series without my mom hovering, warning me about nightmares or how it might mess with my head. I popped a massive bowl of microwave popcorn, dimmed the lights in our cozy suburban living room, and settled into the couch with a blanket. The movie was just ramping up the scares around the 25-minute mark when a sharp knock echoed from the front door. I paused the film, my heart already a bit jumpy from the on-screen tension, and tiptoed to the peephole. Outside stood a young woman in what looked like a makeshift Girl Scout uniform, a green sash slung over a plain hoodie, her hair pulled into uneven braids that didn't quite hide her roots. She couldn't have been younger than 18 or 19, but the outfit screamed trying too hard. Her smile was plastered on, unnaturally wide, like something from a bad commercial. In our neighborhood, cookie sales weren't uncommon. Kids from the local troupe often canvassed doors, but something felt off. This wasn't the usual giggly preteen with a wagon full of boxes. My instincts screamed to ignore it, chalk it up to movie-induced paranoia. After all, what harm could come from buying a box of Thin Mints? I cracked the door open, keeping the chain latched for good measure. "Hey there," she chirped, her voice a tad too enthusiastic. "I'm with the local scout troop, raising funds for community outreach. We've got fresh cookies. Want to grab some? It's for a good cause." Up close, the cracks showed. Her makeup was subtle but smudged, like she'd applied it in dim light, and her eyes darted nervously, not matching the grin. The sash looked homemade, the patches slightly off-center. Sure," I muttered, trying to sound casual. "What flavors you got?" I was named Alex, by the way, your average high school junior, more into video games than real-world drama. But at that age, a bit of attention from someone older felt oddly flattering. "Thin Mints are our best seller, $6 a box," she replied, holding up a sealed package that looked legit. Then with a wink, she added, "You're kinda cute for a guy answering the door in pajamas." My cheeks flushed. No girl had ever said that to me before. Flustered, I fumbled for my wallet on the nearby table. "Just one box, thanks." She leaned in slightly, her perfume wafting over, cloying and floral like cheap body spray from a drugstore. "Actually, I've got a whole assortment in my van parked out front. Samoas, tagalongs, you name it. Come pick your favorite, it'll only take a sec." Alarm bells rang in my head, stranger danger 101 from every school assembly. But the movie's suspense had me second-guessing myself, and hey, free choice of cookies. I unlatched the chain and stepped out onto the porch, the cool night air hitting my face. We walked toward the curb where a nondescript white panel van idled, its engine humming softly under the street lamp. No windows in the back, just solid metal sides, which struck me as weird for a cookie seller. "Right in here," she said cheerfully, sliding the side door open with a metallic groan. The interior was pitch black, no lights on. Before I could peer inside or back away, rough hands exploded from the darkness. One clamped around my wrist like a vice, another yanked my collar, hauling me forward. I opened my mouth to yell, but a palm smashed over it, muffling my cries. My feet scraped the pavement as they dragged me in fully. The door slammed shut with a finality that echoed in my ears, and the van peeled out, tires screeching. Inside, the air reeked of stale sweat and motor oil. Two burly figures loomed over me, one pinning my arms to the grimy floor mat, the other rifling through my pockets. They snatched my phone first, smashing it under a boot heel, then my wallet with its measly $20 from allowance. Even my brand new sneakers, Air Jordans I'd begged for my birthday, were ripped off my feet. "Look at these kicks," one grunted with a chuckle, his breath hot and foul. "Kids got taste." Tears stung my eyes as I whimpered, "Please, let me go, I won't say anything." "Promise." The Girl Scout had shed her braids, revealing stringy hair and a hardened face that aged her to her mid-20s. She twisted in the passenger seat, lighting a cigarette with a flick of a lighter. "Dumbass kids," she sneered, exhaling smoke that filled the confined space, always thinking with the wrong head. Without warning, she leaned back and jabbed the glowing tip into my forearm. Agony seared through me like fire. I howled, thrashing futilely. That's when the real beating started. Fists rained down, not to knock me out, but to maximize the hurt. A punch to my gut doubled me over, wind knocked out. Another cracked against my jaw, splitting my lip and flooding my mouth with coppery blood. I curled into a fetal position, arms shielding my head, but they targeted my sides, ribs cracking under the assault, each breath a dagger. Stars exploded behind my eyelids from a blow to the temple. Laughter echoed around me, cruel and mocking, crybabies leaking everywhere, easy pickings tonight, why me? In the haze of pain, I caught snippets, something about fresh bait for the ring, hinting at darker motives, maybe trafficking or worse. But questions dissolved into survival mode. The ordeal blurred into an eternity of torment, the van's bumps amplifying every bruise. Hours later, maybe 2, maybe 3, the vehicle screeched to a halt in some desolate industrial lot. They flung the door open and booted me out, my body tumbling onto cold asphalt, skin scraping raw. "Keep your mouth shut, punk," one snarled from the shadows. "We know your address, tell the cops, and we'll finish the job." The van vanished into the night, taillights fading like ghosts. I lay there, broken and dazed, blood trickling from my nose and mouth. Disoriented, I staggered to my feet in an unfamiliar part of town, warehouses and empty streets. A passing jogger spotted me, her eyes widening in horror. "Kid, you okay? I'm calling an ambulance." She stayed with me, her voice a lifeline as sirens wailed closer. At the hospital, the diagnosis hit hard: 4 cracked ribs, a mild concussion, orbital fracture around my eye, and burns that would scar. My parents rushed in, mom sobbing, dad's face a mask of fury. The police took my statement amid the beeps of monitors. Descriptions of the trio: the van's make, a Ford Econoline, I thought, partial plate from a fleeting glance. They ran sketches based on my details, canvassed neighborhoods for similar scams, even checked local CCTV for white vans. But leads dried up: too common a vehicle, too vague the faces under hoods. Weeks blurred into therapy sessions. PTSD, the counselor called it, flashbacks to the smoke-choked van, phantom pains in my ribs. Simple things triggered me. A door knock sent me hiding, white vans on the road made my pulse skyrocket. I installed a security app on my new phone, double-checked locks obsessively. School friends noticed the bruises fading slower than my confidence. I became that kid who got jumped, whispers following me in hallways. The cops never caught them, despite tips from a similar incident 2 towns over. As far as I know, that crew's still prowling, disguised as harmless sellers, preying on trusting teens with flattery and false promises. I've learned the hard way: gut feelings aren't paranoia, they're survival. Now every stranger at the door is a potential threat, every van a reminder. But I'm rebuilding, stronger, wiser. If you're reading this, Alex's story, lock your doors tight. The monsters aren't in movies, they're knocking right now. It was a quiet Thursday night in early November 2025. Mom's night shift at the hospital started at 7 p.m., so I was used to the house feeling empty. At 16, I didn't mind the solitude much. Homework, music, scrolling TikTok until my eyes hurt. Our neighborhood was safe, well-lit streets, nosy neighbors, good locks. Lately, though, Steven had been staying over more often. He was Mom's boyfriend of 8 months, a nurse from her floor, tall, quiet, always polite. Mom said it was nice having another adult around when she worked late. He brought groceries sometimes, fixed the leaky faucet once. I never really warmed to him, but I didn't dislike him either. He just existed. Around 9:45 p.m., I was sprawled on the living room couch finishing biology notes when a knock came, 3 firm raps. I checked the peephole. Steven, still in his blue scrubs, hair messy like he'd had a long shift. His backpack hung from one shoulder. He looked tired, almost pale under the porch light. I kept the chain on. "Hey, Steven." "Mom's at work." He gave a small, apologetic smile. "I know, Maya. Sorry to bother you this late. I left my backpack here yesterday. My meds are in it. Blood pressure stuff. I really need them tonight." I remembered seeing the black backpack on the armchair that morning. He did look rough, sweaty forehead, shaky hands. Against my better judgment, I unlatched the chain and opened the door wider. "Okay, come in." "It's in the living room." He stepped inside, murmuring thanks, kiddo, and headed straight for the chair. I lingered near the hallway, phone in hand, thumb hovering over Mom's contact. Something felt off. His movements were too deliberate, like he was playing a part. I dialed Mom as I walked toward the kitchen, keeping my voice light. "Hey, Mom, Steven just stopped by. Said he forgot his backpack and needs his medication." There was a 2-second pause on the line, long enough for my stomach to drop. When she spoke, her voice was low, urgent, almost a whisper. "Maya, listen to me very carefully. We broke up this afternoon. He got really angry when I told him it was over. He's not stable right now. He took some of my things when he left, including the handgun from the nightstand drawer. Lock yourself in your room immediately. I'm calling the police." Ice flooded my veins. I spun around. Steven wasn't by the chair anymore. He stood in the kitchen doorway, backpack forgotten. In his right hand was Mom's compact 9, the one she kept for just in case after Dad left years ago. He must have known exactly where she hid it. "Hang up the phone, Maya," he said softly, almost gently. The gun stayed pointed at the floor for now. Mom's voice cracked through the speaker. "Maya, what's happening? Say something." I ended the call with trembling fingers. The screen went dark. Steven stepped closer. I backed up until my lower back hit the kitchen counter. "You know what your mother said to me today?" His voice was calm, conversational, like we were discussing dinner. "She said I was unstable, that I needed help, that she was done." He tilted his head. "So I thought maybe I'll show her exactly how much I care." The gun rose slowly until the barrel hovered near my chest. "Get on your knees," I obeyed. The tile was cold through my leggings. Tears burned my eyes, but I blinked them back. Panic wouldn't help. I needed time. "Please, Steven, don't do this." My voice shook. "You don't want to hurt me." He crouched to my level, the muzzle inches from my forehead now. I could smell his hospital soap mixed with sweat. "You know, Maya, I always liked you more than her. You're sweet, quiet. You actually listen." A sad smile touched his lips. "It's a shame I have to end this tonight." My mind raced. Begging wouldn't work. He was too far gone. Flattery might. I swallowed hard, forcing my voice steady. "You're right," I whispered. "Mom, she never appreciated you. She's always working, always gone. She treated you like you didn't matter." I let real tears fall. But I saw it. I saw how good you were to us, how you fixed things, how you cared. She was selfish. His grip on the gun loosened just a fraction. His eyes searched mine, hungry for validation. "I hate living like this," I continued, voice cracking perfectly. "Alone all the time, scared. You're the only one who ever really paid attention to me." For a long moment, silence. Then his shoulders sagged slightly. "You really mean that?" I nodded slowly. "Yes, I do." He lowered the gun a few inches. I reached out agonizingly slow and touched his forearm. "I don't want to die tonight, Steven. I want to be with someone who actually sees me." He exhaled shakily, almost relieved. The gun dropped to his side. He pulled me into a one-armed hug, the barrel pressing cold against my ribs. "I knew it," he murmured into my hair. "I knew you were different." My heart hammered so hard I was sure he could feel it. "We could leave," I said softly. "Start over, but I need to grab some things first. My ID, clothes, charger. I can't run away with nothing." He pulled back, studying my face. Suspicion flickered, then faded. "All right. But I'm coming with you." We walked down the hallway together. His hand gripped my shoulder, possessive, not gentle. The gun never left his hand. In my bedroom, I opened drawers with shaking fingers, shoving random clothes into my backpack. Steven stood in the doorway, watching every move. "Don't take too long," he warned. "I won't." My voice was small, then I spotted the bathroom door. I need to use the bathroom real quick. It's a long drive, right? "I'm nervous I might get sick." His eyes narrowed. "Leave it open. Steven, please." I let shame color my cheeks. "I'm embarrassed. I just need a minute, 2 minutes, that's all." He stared for what felt like forever, then he sighed. "Fine. 2 minutes, don't lock it." I stepped inside, pushed the door almost closed, and quiet as I could, twisted the lock. It clicked softly. I sank into the bathtub, knees to chest, and redialed Mom. "Mom," I breathed, barely audible. "He has the gun. He wants to take me with him. I'm locked in the bathroom. He's right outside." "We're already on the way," she whispered back, voice thick. "Police are 2 minutes out. Stay quiet. We're coming, baby." "I love you, Maya," Steven's voice from the other side. Calm at first, then sharper. "Maya, you done?" I didn't answer. The doorknob rattled. "Open the door." Silence. "Maya," he pounded once, twice. The wood groaned. "You called them, didn't you? You little..." Sirens wailed in the distance, faint, then louder, closer. Stephen cursed. Footsteps retreated, shouting outside, furniture crashing, then silence. "Maya," Mom's voice again, closer now. "Sweetie, it's safe." "Open the door." I unlocked it and stumbled into her arms. She was crying, holding me so tightly I could barely breathe. Police swarmed the house. Stephen had tried the back door, been tackled in the yard. He was on the ground, handcuffed, screaming my name as they dragged him away. "I'll find you, Maya. When I get out, I'm coming for both of you." They charged him with attempted kidnapping, unlawful possession of a firearm, terroristic threats, breaking and entering. He's still in county jail, awaiting trial. That summer we moved, new town, new house, unlisted address. Mom got her concealed carry permit renewed. We installed a full security system. Cameras, motion lights, alarms that scream like banshees. I changed schools. I don't talk about that night much, but some things don't leave. I still freeze when someone knocks after dark. I sleep with my light on most nights. Mom sleeps on the pullout in my room when she's worried. Every creak of the house, every shadow makes me think of that gun barrel against my skin. He'll get parole someday. 5 years, 10, 15, and when he does, he knows my name. He knows what I look like. He knows I betrayed him. And that knowledge is heavier than any lock or alarm could ever be. My name is Evan. I'm 17, and my bedroom window looks straight across the street at the Petersons' house. They moved in about 2 months ago, Liam and his wife, Pierre. Liam was mid-30s, tall, always in workout gear, the kind of guy who waved at everyone but never stopped to talk. Pierre was younger, maybe late 20s, friendly in that quiet way. She'd smile and wave when she saw me taking out the trash. Nice couple, normal. It was a chilly Friday night in late October 2025. My parents had driven 2 hours across town for a cousin's wedding. They wouldn't be back until after midnight. I was fine with it. Our neighborhood felt safe, streetlights every 50 feet, dogs barking at nothing, the usual suburban quiet. I was in my room, headphones on, watching YouTube compilations when I heard it. A woman's voice rising, sharp and desperate. At first I thought it was TV from next door, but it kept going, louder, angrier. I pulled off my headphones and went to the window. The Petersons' kitchen light was on, blinds half open like always. Inside, Liam was yelling at Pierre. His face was red, finger jabbing inches from her nose. She was backing away, hands up, tears streaming. I should have closed my curtains and minded my own business, but I couldn't look away. Then he grabbed her by the throat. One hard slap, her head snapped back. She dropped to the floor with a thud I swear I felt through the glass. Liam wasn't done. He reached for the big chef's knife on the counter, the one they used for everything from carrots to steaks. He knelt beside her. She threw her hands up, screaming something I couldn't hear. He brought the knife down once, twice, 3 times more. Blood sprayed across the white cabinets. Her body jerked once, then went still. I stood frozen, heart slamming against my ribs. Liam wiped his face with his sleeve, smearing red across his cheek, and looked up, straight at me. Our eyes locked for maybe 3 seconds. He didn't look shocked. He looked calculating, like he was memorizing my face. I ducked below the windowsill, hands shaking so bad I dropped my phone. When I peeked again, their kitchen was dark. The whole house blacked out. I crawled to my bed, grabbed my phone, and dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? I just saw my neighbor kill his wife, I whispered. Through the window, he's got a knife. He's in the house across the street. Please hurry. The dispatcher stayed calm, asked for my address, my name. Halfway through, I heard it, gravel crunching outside. Footsteps coming around the side of my house toward the back door. He's here, I hissed. He's at my back door. Stay on the line, Evan. Officers are en route. Lock yourself in a room. The back door handle rattled. Then a low voice muffled through the wood. "I saw you, kid. I know you saw me too." My blood turned to ice. He knew my name? How? I whispered to the dispatcher. He said my name. He knows who I am. The dispatcher said something about staying quiet. I didn't hear the rest. The kicking started hard, rhythmic. The door frame shook, wood splintered. "Open the door, Evan," he called, almost casual. "Let's talk about this. What you saw was a misunderstanding, a prank. Piers, fine, open up and I'll show you." "You're lying," I choked out. The kicking got harder. The whole house seemed to shudder. Then glass shattered, the small window beside the back door. Heavy boots crunched over broken shards. He was inside. I scrambled into my closet, wedged behind my winter coats and old boxes. I bit down on my sleeve to keep from breathing too loud. Tears ran down my face. Footsteps moved slowly through the house, kitchen, hallway, bathroom, checking every room. They stopped right outside the closet door. I could hear him breathing, heavy, patient. Then sirens, distant at first, then closer, tires screeching. Doors slamming, voices shouting, "Police, come out with your hands up." The boots hesitated. A second of silence that felt like eternity. Then they ran back through the kitchen, out the broken door. I heard yelling outside, radios crackling, footsteps chasing. Minutes later, a soft knock on the closet door. "Evan, it's Officer Ramirez. You're safe. You can come out." I pushed the coats aside and stumbled into the light. Two cops were in the hallway. One wrapped a blanket around my shoulders. My legs wouldn't stop shaking. They took me to the front porch. Flashlights swept the Petersons' house. I told them everything, the argument, the knife, the blood, the stare, the break-in. They showed me the shattered back door, the blood on the glass where he'd cut his hand climbing in. Then they went across the street. They made me wait on the curb. But I saw enough through the open door. Pierre's body on the kitchen floor, eyes open, blood pooling under her. The walls looked like a horror movie set. The detective who interviewed me later was kind but serious. "You're the only witness we have, Evan. Liam's got a history. Neighbors said he'd been paranoid for weeks, accusing her of cheating, checking her phone, following her. Tonight he snapped." They put out a bolo, "Be on the lookout," with a description. 6'2", athletic build, dark hoodie, possible hand injury. Composite sketch based on my details. Neighborhood canvas. Patrols increased. They even talked about temporary relocation if needed. My parents got home to flashing lights and me in the back of an ambulance, wrapped in a blanket. Mom cried the whole way home. Dad kept asking if I was hurt over and over. That was 3 weeks ago. Liam is still out there. Vanished that night, no credit cards, no phone pings, no sightings. The police say they're doing everything. FBI tip line, statewide alerts, even checking family in other states. We changed the locks. Dad installed a full security system, cameras front and back, motion lights, alarm that calls the police automatically. I'm not allowed home alone anymore. Mom sleeps in my room some nights because I wake up screaming. The worst part isn't the nightmares, it's the quiet moments. When I'm lying in bed, I hear it, tap, tap, tap. The house settling, wind on the window branches, but my heart stops every time. I think it's him, tapping to see if I'm awake. Tapping to let me know he's still watching. He knows my face, he knows my name, he knows where I live. And as long as I'm alive, I'm the only one who can put him away forever. Time is on his side. Every day he stays free is another day he could come back. And I keep wondering, is tonight the night he decides to finish what he started?
This happened to me back in my high school days when I shared a room with my sister. I was completely obsessed with an anime called Black Butler, a story about a demon bound in a contract with a human. I loved it so much that I set the pentagram symbol from the show as my phone wallpaper. Everything was fine for a few days, but then one night, something terrifying happened. My sister was in college at the time, and we slept on a bunk bed, she on the top bunk, me on the bottom. Since I had early classes, I always set an alarm for 4:00 a.m. and kept my phone right beside me so I could turn it off easily. That night, we turned off the lights and went to sleep. In the middle of the night, my alarm suddenly started ringing. Still half asleep, I reached around with my eyes closed, trying to find my phone. But I couldn't feel it next to me. The ringing kept going, and in a drowsy voice I asked my sister, "Where's my phone?" She answered in an annoyed, sleepy tone, "I don't know." After it rang for about 5 minutes, I said again, "I can hear it coming from up there. Stop messing around and give it to me." Then she replied, "Okay, I found it. Here." I slightly opened my eyes, but it was pitch dark and I was still groggy, so my vision was blurry. I didn't really look around. An arm reached down from the top bunk and handed me the phone. But when I glanced at it, I saw long, thin fingers with sharp nails. I was so sleepy that I didn't fully register what I'd seen. I looked at the screen. It showed 3:00 a.m., even though I was certain I'd set the alarm for 4:00. Too tired to think, I just ignored it all and went back to sleep. The next morning at around 6:00, I asked my sister, "Why didn't you turn off the alarm? You had my phone, right?" That's when the real horror hit. She looked completely confused and said, "What are you talking about? I was fast asleep. I never woke up and talked to you that early." My heart stopped for a second, and cold sweat ran down my face. I whispered, "Then who was I talking to, and who handed me the phone?" Everything came rushing back. We stared at each other in pure terror. From that day on, I never used that wallpaper again. That night, both of us slept together on the bottom bunk. Even now, my sister and I still remember that horrifying experience. Sometimes I wonder, what if I hadn't been so sleepy that night? What if I had sat up and turned on the light? This happened about 9 months ago. I'm still trying to get over it. I used to be a really shy girl with no friends. I stayed away from social media because I thought it would distract me from studies. But on January 2nd, I decided to try Instagram for the first time, hoping I might finally make some friends. While scrolling, I came across an account that posted hilarious videos. I loved it, so I sent a message. The girl running the account was the same age as me. For privacy, I'll call her Renata. We became close very quickly. At first, we just shared funny reels. Then, we started opening up about our lives. I told her how lonely I felt and that she was basically my only friend. She sent me pictures of her family and even gave me her address, saying I could visit anytime. But about a month later, she suddenly stopped replying. I kept sending reels and asking if she was okay. Nothing. A week later, she finally messaged back with just, "I'm fine." I told her how worried I'd been, but she said everything was okay. Looking back, that was the first red flag. After that, whenever I sent something funny, she'd only react with an emoji. Anytime I tried to talk about deeper stuff, she'd just say, "Oh," or Then one day she sent me a long, detailed message describing exactly how to kidnap and murder someone. I was terrified. I thought maybe it was a sick joke, but it didn't feel playful at all. The sane girl who used to send memes was now writing like a complete psychopath. Then she asked for my address. That's when I knew something was seriously wrong. I sent her a voice note saying that message made me extremely uncomfortable and she should never send anything like that again. Honestly, I couldn't even finish reading the whole thing. Her reply was even worse. "Which part of that message made you uncomfortable?" I stopped responding and blocked her immediately. About a week later, I went out of town to visit my aunt. That's when I noticed something strange. The address Renata had given me was very close to where I was staying. Even though I was hurt and scared, part of me still cared. She had been my only friend, so I decided to go visit her. It would be our first time meeting in person. The neighborhood was confusing, but the neighbors helped me find the house right away after I showed them her photo. Now I understand why they were so quick to help. The house was big, just like in the pictures she'd sent. It was quiet, too quiet. I rang the doorbell. A woman opened the door. It was Renata's mother. I nervously said, "Hi, I'm here to see Renata." Her mother's face went pale, like she'd seen a ghost. A man. Her older brother Ryan rushed over, looking both angry and terrified. That's when I saw it, a framed photo of Renata on the wall, surrounded by flower garlands. My entire body went ice cold. They told me Renata was dead. She had been murdered by a psychopath. The police were still looking for him. And the worst part, the method used to kill her was exactly the same as the one described in the message sent to me. I told her family everything. They were devastated. Her brother called the police and tried to comfort me. I don't know what happened after that. I didn't ask. I never went near that house again. The whole thing left me terrified and completely alone. My family supported me, and therapy helped too. I'm doing better now, but I still think about it. I keep wondering, what if I had given that account my real address? Who was really behind it? And why were they messaging me from my friend's phone even after they had killed her? June 9th, 2013. Gifford Pinchot National Forest, Cougar, Washington, one of the oldest national forests in the United States. A 19-year-old woman named Maureen Kelly, born in 1993, went camping with friends at Canyon Creek Campground. Late that night, she walked alone into the deep woods, stripped completely naked, and vanished. She has never been found. This is a true story. During the trip, something suddenly changed in her. Out of nowhere, she announced, "I'm going on a spiritual quest." Then she did something no one expected. She took off all her clothes and tied a small pouch around her waist. Inside the pouch were only 3 items: a knife, matches, and a compass. No food, no water, no light. She promised her friends, "I'll be back before midnight," and walked straight into the forest. One of her friends, Amanda Ziegler, later said that Maureen had often talked about wanting a profound spiritual experience. But even she couldn't understand why Maureen chose that exact moment, or why she went in completely naked. The group eventually fell asleep. When morning came and Maureen still hadn't returned, they called for help. Authorities launched a massive search, over 100 people, helicopters sweeping the canopy, search teams combing the undergrowth. They found barefoot prints on a gravel road near Canyon Creek that matched Maureen's size. Canine units were brought in to track the scent. But then something inexplicable happened. The footprints stopped dead in the middle of the road. There was no sign of where she went next. The dogs lost the scent completely. It was as if she had simply disappeared into thin air. Investigators said hypothermia was the most likely cause. Night temperatures were low, and she had no clothes. But if she died from exposure, why was her body never found? People who knew her all described the case the same way: strange, deeply unsettling, and unexplainable. Some believe she was kidnapped, though the chances of encountering a violent stranger in such remote woods at night were extremely low. Others think she might have crawled under a fallen log or into a crevice to escape the cold and never came out. But the biggest question remains: why did she suddenly strip naked and walk alone into the forest? What was going through her mind? What did she believe she would find? 12 years later, there are still no answers. Maureen Kelly remains missing, and her disappearance is one of Washington State's most haunting, unsolved mysteries.
This happened almost 2 years ago.
That happened a couple of years back. I got pulled in for the overnight shift from 10 p.m. until 4 a.m. at the convenience store because a coworker bylaid last minute. The place sat on a main highway in a pretty calm countryside spot. On a typical late shift, you'd see maybe 10 to 20 folks drop by for a drink or a quick snack. But that evening, this young guy in his mid-20s showed up. He was letting out these bizarre, high-pitched shouts. I figured he might have some sort of developmental issue. Actually, my sibling deals with something similar, so I felt bad for him right away. He approached the register empty-handed, staring right at me, though his gaze was fixed upward toward the lights. It made me uneasy. I wasn't sure how to handle the situation. I attempted to chat with him, but he just replied with those intense sounds. I kept glancing outside to see if anyone was with him, but he seemed so low. No vehicles in the lot, so probably on foot. He lingered there forever, eyes on the ceiling, emitting those noises, until I decided to encourage him to leave by offering a free pack of snacks and saying he could take it and head out. I started searching for a contact to get him some assistance. Suddenly, he pivoted and exited the shop. I pitied the poor fellow, yet it left me feeling spooked. Roughly 60 minutes later, the store phone buzzed. I answered and recognized those same shouting echoes from the guy before. It threw me off completely. My mind jumped to it being a joke or something. I ended the call and started feeling on edge about everything around me, peering out the windows nonstop. When 4 a.m. hit, my relief arrived, letting me clock out and leave. It was no longer on my plate. I arrived home, dumped my belongings on the counter, eager for bed. But my cell rang almost immediately after stepping inside. A shiver hit me hard. Who calls at this hour? I assumed it was an emergency. Steeling myself, I picked up and heard the man once more. Nausea washed over me from those deafening cries. I fumbled to hang up quickly. Through the rest of the night, I sensed eyes on me despite the closed curtains, and I was convinced odd sounds echoed throughout the place. I stayed awake until daylight broke. Time went by, and I'd pushed the memory aside. But then, venturing into the lower level after ages, I saw documents strewn across the ground. And in the storage area down there, I spotted markings on the surfaces. The store name was scrawled in marker on the panel, plus the location of my workplace and my own residence details. The scariest bit, there were assorted blades from the kitchen and a big folding knife stashed in there too. What began as an apparent, harmless individual, evolving into what felt like a hoax, ended up revealing something far more terrifying. He'd been squatting in that space for who knows how many days, and I'm thankful that somehow he decided against whatever plan and vanished. Since there's been no sign of him afterward, all I'll add is that individual is seriously unstable.
Subscribe.